This is the new Sony RX10 MKII, and in this video I want to test how well it can shoot video in full auto mode. Hi, I'm Grant, and this is the first in a series of videos I'm producing on how well this camera can shoot video. This first video is testing how well this camera can shoot video in the full auto mode. Why? Because often I believe this camera will be bought as a stills camera primarily, and it has the ability to shoot video. So someone who perhaps doesn't want to go into the manual features, who might occasionally flick it to the video mode and shoot video in full auto. So I want to test how well it does it. Another reason is that with smaller cameras, using them in full manual mode can be quite tricky with their small controls and buttons and menus. So knowing when you can use it in full auto can help you with your shooting. These were all shot in 1080 HD 30 frames a second because that fits best with my workflow at the moment and what I shoot the most of. This camera can shoot 4K internally, and I will test this in an upcoming video. I shot some video in my local town on a bright and sunny day, and I have to say it did a fantastic job. Not too much focus hunting or exposure issues at all. Also, the auto white balance seemed to do a great job as well. I even flicked it into 120 frames a second for some slow-mo, and this was still on full auto and it looked great. I was using center weighted and face tracking autofocus, and you can see here it did a fantastic job of tracking this guy walking towards me. It did a far better job than I could ever do manually pulling focus. Perhaps one of the better tests of this camera's full auto functionality for shooting video is for vlogging or a daily video type shoot. I run a vlog channel, which I will link here and below in the description, and I actually did a whole day episode using this camera. You can see this for yourself, but my thoughts were this camera actually did a pretty good job. It didn't really have too many issues with focus hunting or exposure or white balance. It tended to overexpose a little bit, but it surprised me how well it did. However, the biggest flaw of using this camera for vlogging or blogging is it doesn't have a flip around LCD monitor, so you can't line yourself up when you're shooting yourself. Apart from that, I think it actually did a very good job. Another point I noted for those of you that shoot a lot of video with both Sony and Canon cameras is that it does tend to have the Sony look about it, which can tend to look a bit video-ish. However, this camera has an exceptional amount of picture profile adjustments, including shooting in the Sony S-Log2 format, and you can set it up to shoot in many different styles or looks to suit your taste. Another good test that I used this camera for was as a family stills and video style camera, where I got a few shots of my kids at their local school production last week. This is an extremely tough situation for the camera due to low light levels and a lot of moving kids in the same color costumes. Again, I think the camera did a very good job in the full auto mode. A couple of cons or not such great things about this camera, and these aren't really to do with its full auto functionality. Firstly, the battery life on this for shooting video is not very good. You will need a second and possibly a third spare battery. I was getting possibly 2 hours of playing around with it before I'd burn through a battery and then have to put another one in. Secondly, remove the carry strap attachments or put a strap on them as they jingle, and the internal mic will pick this up. And thirdly, like most built-in internal mics on these cameras, they are susceptible to wind noise. Overall, I'd have to say I'm actually pretty impressed with the full auto functionality of this camera for shooting video. Full auto focus, exposure and white balance have come a long way on cameras that were primarily designed to shoot stills and video as an afterthought. So if someone came to me and asked if I'd recommend this camera where they had no intention of going to the manual functionality of it and they just wanted to pick it up and shoot video on full auto every now and then, I would definitely recommend it. So stay tuned, I've got some more videos coming on using the Sony RX10 MKII for shooting video, and as always, thanks for your time.